Hello and welcome to the Womxn Show. I'm Lenina Rassool. It's Valentine's month and usually the focus is on our relationships with significant others. But today on the Womxn Show, we are going to be speaking about our relationship with self. After the break, we're going to be speaking to two lovely ladies from a non-profit company called Sweet Fragrance, and they do empowerment workshops in communities with women. We are going to be speaking about self-love, self-growth, and self-development. But before that, let's have a look at a short video of some of the work that they do to empower women. Let's have a look.
She is loved, she is cherished, she is capable, she has integrity, she is brave, she is admired, she has commitment, she is strong, she is a princess, she is beautiful, she is courageous, she is an opportunist, and she is so very fierce.
Thank you, Lord. So that bracket, because I believe to boxing yourself, in putting yourself in a box, when we use our circumstances from a place of defining us. Do you ladies agree? Let's turn over the page.
Thoughts, your true emotions that you can write down. You know, if you need to tear it up, throw it away. If you don't want anyone.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Womxn Show, and as you have heard, it is the month of February, and while everyone is out celebrating romance with largely their romantic partners, we are focusing on self-love, self-development, and growth in this episode. And joining me to speak about these things is Tarryn, who is the founder of an organization called Sweet Fragrance, and Edlyne Edwards, who is also a facilitator and a fitness instructor with Sweet Fragrance. Ladies, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So, Tarryn, we're going to start by asking you, what is Sweet Fragrance? How did it start and what do you guys do?
So Sweet Fragrance is a non-profit company. We started in 2017, and basically what we stand for is how can we as women collectively become a sweet fragrance for one another. You know, we always normally compare ourselves to one another. There's jealousy amongst women and all those negative things. But how can we turn the negative to positive by caring for one another compassionately, wanting the best for one another, and how can we help each other get there day by day? And through that, it was first a journey with myself, a personal journey. And I had to do a lot of self-introspection. And with that self-introspection, there was a lot that I had to deal with, work through for my life, and to a point where one day I happened to start counseling and mentoring 13 women over a period of 3 years. And through that mentorship, I really learned that and discovered, you know, women are actually struggling with a lot of things from the inside out, internally. And so with that counseling over the period of 3 years and mentorship, I really learned there that women can only get to certain places in life helping each other along the way. And I learned that I actually enjoy doing this. I actually really enjoy mentoring these women. And through that, I said, could this become a passion? and it actually did. And in 2017, I established Sweet Fragrance. A team of women came together to assist me. And through this, we do Sweet Fragrance. Basically, what we do is we run certain initiatives. We work with the body, mind, and soul. And we look holistically at helping women through that. So we run workshops, and it's a 3-part workshop. The sessions consist of identity, who am I from the inside out. We look at choices, values, and decision-making in life. Part 2, we look at my pain. How can my pain be used for passion? And how can it be used then for purpose? So we look at making our pain go to work, we call it. How can it become beneficial? Instead of the negativity of it, how can my pain be used for good in my life, and really turn the negative into positivity and maybe lead to a passion, and then passion ignites purpose. And then part 3, we look at gender-based violence, mental health, and relationship challenges. And then we also offer fitness within our sessions, because we really believe in the body, mind, and soul being in some sort of alignment, and then a woman can actually give more of herself to a family, society. So we work with the body, the mind, and the soul.
Tarryn, I love that, especially with the emphasis on women supporting other women on their journeys. Edlyne, I want to come to you. So you are a facilitator and a fitness coach, and I just want to ask how you got involved with Sweet Fragrance.
Yeah, it's actually through fitness. So Tarryn was looking for someone to help the Sweet Fragrance with the fitness, and because I'm a qualified personal trainer and group exercise instructor, and I'm also very passionate about women and helping women. So then our passions basically just connected, and that's how I got started as well.
I mean, that's great. And I love, Tarryn, when we were speaking before the show, I was just saying I don't often see a fitness aspect in a basket of services that's aimed at sort of empowering women. I mean, they are, but it doesn't usually go together with everything that you do.
Yeah.
And so, Edlyne, I just want to go in and how does fitness help people? And I want to contextualize that, because I was saying to Tarryn also that often we're seeing a lot of that now, especially with social media and the TikTok videos, but there's still a large emphasis on how we look and to look like a supermodel and to lose weight. How does fitness feature into sort of empowerment and in a holistic way and in a healing way?
Yeah, I think it's so important because when you look after yourself physically, it affects you emotionally, it affects you mentally, it affects you spiritually, because physical exercise, it really helps with depression, it helps to fight against anxiety and depression. So when we start to look after ourselves, it also improves your confidence at the end of the day, and so if you look good, and you feel good, if you're working on yourself, because that's what I tell people many times. When you are working on yourself, you already start feeling better about yourself, right? And then you already start like walking with more confidence, and that shines out. People see that, and so that is why I also believe it's so important, because it connects with one another. Our bodies with our minds, with our spirits, it's all connected at the end of the day.
I was watching this Netflix documentary the other day by Jonah Hill, who is generally a comedian, has comedy, and he did this whole thing about interviewing his therapist. And it was so interesting because the therapist said when he was initially training not training, but when he started sort of doing his psychology with the patients, some of the stuff wasn't helping people like immediately, and he kept going back and saying, what is something I can give them? Yes, I can, put them through all of these like programs, but what is something that's going to make them feel better immediately? And one of the things that he incorporated was exercise. He was like, it'll give you an instant hit of endorphins that will make you feel better.
That feel good hormones.
Even if you don't see any immediate progress, it releases stuff that makes you feel a bit better.
Yeah.
And so makes you sort of help you. I'm looking, empowering women to propel. You've got on your t-shirt that helps like propel you forward and keep you going. So
Definitely.
I love that aspect of bringing it in. Tarryn, so you were speaking about the workshops that you do, and I was quite interested because one of the things you do is go into communities, and often communities that lack lots of resources for these types of services. So you go into the communities and you facilitate the workshops. And I wanted to ask, why is it important for us to take this type of information to people in communities?
You know, it's important to meet people where they're at. I also first want to say, if you take people out of their community, it's the atmosphere changes for them. It's not the same setting, and they love it when we there, that they become a bit more vulnerable and more open. And what we have seen is, okay, we also go to women's shelters, and they're there for that reason, to look at who am I again, because they're there for various reasons, things that happen in their life. They become quickly vulnerable. But when we are in the community, it takes about one session and then they become a bit more vulnerable in that sense. But they also know this is where I was reared with, this is where I was brought up. And, you know, people are actually looking at me and coming to me. I don't need to go to them to be empowered. And the reason why we take it to them is because we realize that that is the heart of their home. That is where all they know. So some of them has only ever come to our workshop, and that's the only empowerment they've ever got in their whole entire lives. And to do that just for someone really is what it's all about for us. You know, we're passionate about empowering people one-on-one, because empowerment, normally if it's an empowerment session, it's really surface level, in my opinion, and we go really deep, very deep, and sometimes very overwhelming for the woman. But I feel it's important to bring empowerment to them where they're at, is because they trust you even more when you come to their community and right on the grounds they know. They feel at home, they feel love, they feel compassion, and they feel comfortable to open up and share. So yeah, that's how I feel it's very important to bring empowerment to them.
I would also think that, you know, you in the area where they are experiencing a lot of the things that they are talking about.
Yes, definitely.
So you are able to, or at least they are able to sort of personalize the things that they are struggling with within the contents of
setting.
where they, exactly where they're struggling with it. Can I also ask you, so, you know, and I said to you, I was so fascinated by that because also another thing is like access. You know, often people aren't able to go out of communities to do that. And do you find that that's also a factor?
Yes, very often. And people don't have necessarily money for the transport and to get there. And, you know, a lot of them in the beginning, it was very difficult because they don't even have access to WhatsApp. And to a phone. And then we couldn't really communicate with certain people. And then we created a way that we could get to them. And so that's why we go to them, because many of them don't have transport, they can't get anywhere. And that's why they miss out on such a good opportunity to be impacted. And that's why many people don't attend workshops, because they can't get there. And so that's why we brought it closer to home. Yeah, it's that simple. And after the workshop, what we always want to do is we want to connect with the group still, to stay in contact. So we create WhatsApp groups, but what we noticed when we did is that many of them don't have WhatsApp to stay connected. And that is sad for me, because we want to see them again, because we offer a 3-part workshop, and then now when do we see these women again? And that's why we offer trauma counseling for those that want to extend. And that's the option that we do have within our organization, is to have trauma counseling after the workshops and you feel you need more help. So we have that available.
I want to ask you, so you work towards empowering women, and I wanted to like dig in, like what is empowerment? What does empowerment look like? And you were saying earlier that for many women, this is the first time that they've accessed something. I mean, I would even say, even if you go into fitness, it could, you know, I was raised in fact in Kensington, so I know in terms of like lack of services, opportunities, or whatever in certain areas, there just isn't. So, so for many women, they probably don't even have a concept or idea of what empower would look like. And I often say when we have discussions around gender-based violence, for a lot of women, they don't understand what gender-based violence is, the full spectrum of it. So some of them don't even characterize the stuff that's happening to them as abuse. So when you come in and you sort of look at empowering women, what does empowerment look like?
Let me start by saying this. You know, I feel a lot of women, we have to empower ourselves firstly, because, you know, when we do this workshop, we see women, they are so broken. It can be overwhelming for us as well. And let me first say that, you know, many of us, we don't have people to empower us at home, especially because of our responsibilities. For example, being a mom, looking after children, your job. You know, many times there's no one around us to empower us. We have to do it ourselves, and that's the sad reality that we live in. And when they come to these workshops, they really, many people or many women say is, Tarryn, I actually have a time to do self-reflection. And for me, empowerment has a lot to do with self-reflection. who am I from the inside out? What is going on with me from on the inside? Because at the end of the day, what ultimately matters is who am I, not on the outside. Outside appearance doesn't matter because we know it fades. But the inside of me is what gets me going. How am I doing mentally? How am I doing emotionally? You know? So those are the important things, and empowerment has a lot to do with going deeper. Because I always feel that, like I said previously, like empowerment seems such a label now that it's like I come to the session, this woman gives a talk, and I'm uplifted for the moment. And for me, empowerment is deeper than that. I always want to say it's the IN, empowerment, instead of the E, beginning the word with the E, but rather use empowerment, IN, empowerment, because it's for women from the inside out. And we really take it deeper. We do this mirror session on the first session, and it gets so deep. There's so many tears in the room. You can ask Edlyne. It can feel overwhelming for us as a team also, but we know that this is women being real. This is empowerment. This is me. I want to be vulnerable. Empowerment is being vulnerable. It's really getting to the core of my struggles and my challenges, and how can us as Sweet Fragrance help them become a fragrance with their own lives, with their own personal struggles. How can I turn that negativity into a fragrance for myself and become a sweet fragrance at the end of the day? So yeah.
I love that, and you're right. You know, it's about there is so much emphasis, we know, historically around gender and around women, that it's easy for us to learn. I often say, when I look at the stuff that I have a 9-year-old daughter, when I look at the stuff that she's watching, I'm appalled by how much the media still focuses on how women look, how girls look, and the dressing and all of that stuff. And that's what I want to come back to you, Edlyne, when you were speaking earlier about. So I must say, I haven't even hated exercise. I just don't really think about it. But I always tell the story when I was in primary school and they're doing the tryouts for the sports, and I had to do the high jump, and it was on the lowest thing, and I knocked the pole. And the teacher said to me, I've never seen someone jump so low in my whole life. And I always used to come last anyway in the races and stuff. So I wasn't a physical person. The type of person I was to sit in a corner and read a book. And so no one ever contextualized fitness or anything in terms of mental health, in terms of helping it make you feel better. It was just sort of this competitive thing that you're either good at or you're not good at.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, how does working on yourself, because I like the way you said it earlier. I like the way you said, when you are working on yourself, you automatically feel better because you're doing something about it. How does that factor into empowerment also?
Well, as Tarryn said, it's about empowerment. So when you're working on yourself, it's affecting your mental wellness. And as you said, like today, it's all about the focus on the external, especially for our children, right? And you don't even
girls, right?
Our girls, yeah, exactly. And so when we realize it's not actually about going to the gym, that's what I want people to realize. It's not about going to the gym. It's about just walking. It's about playing with your child. If you're a parent, play with your child with the ball, like kick the ball around. It's just about doing physical things at the end of the day. Dancing, playing music and dancing. It's about moving your body, you know, because that's how you start looking after yourself, and you are empowering yourself by looking after yourself at the end of the day. Because each one of us, we only received one body, right? And so what you do with that body, it's your choice, how you look after your body. So it is empowering when we start exercising and looking after ourselves, because it's you looking after yourself physically, you're looking after yourself, as I said, it automatically goes over to emotionally as well, how you're looking after yourself. And it affects you spiritually, it affects you mentally as well. So, yeah.
Edlyne, can I ask you something? So you do this work, and part of the work in the workshops, and you're also a facilitator, is dealing with gender-based violence. And so you said something now. You said you only receive one body, and how you look after this body. And gender-based violence is very physical. It's got to do a lot of the time with body. Do you find that also exercise can help women sort of gain a sense of agency as well after after their body's been violated? I mean, I'm hearing you saying that, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, this is one way you can take back your body.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find that in your work?
Definitely. I love combat. I don't know if you know what combat is. It's almost like kickboxing, you know, like that type of training. And so that is a kind of way also. So there's different types of fitness. So that's also a kind of a way where you can take your power back, you know. And for me, example, doing a push-up, it's not about that action, but when you realize like I can do one more than I've done before, it feels so empowering, you know, when you realize like I couldn't run like for 5 minutes before and you end up doing it's so empowering, you know. So it's about stretching yourself at the end of the day, and the moment you do that, it's like you take your power back. So if you have gone through a physical abuse, maybe when it comes to gender-based, but we also speak about how it's mentally you can be abused as well. Financially you can be abused as well, you know, in different
and
ways.
abuse is all about taking your power away,
Exactly.
right?
So now I take my power back by owning my body, by taking control of my mind, by taking control of my spirit, by taking control of myself. Now I'm taking my power back, you know, and many times we actually give our power away. When things like that happen, yes, it's outside of our control many times, but we can take our power back by making a decision. I'm going to look after myself. You know, that decision, when you start making that decision, then everything else just falls into place, I'd say.
I mean, I love that. And let's just say again, like, take my power back by owning my body. And I love that. I love being able to, you know, I'm sure in the process of then being able to do one more push-up or
it's a process.
And one more lap, you realize that you do have agency and control over something. And I don't think that that is something that women and girls are particularly raised with, because a lot of the ways we are raised is we are dictated to, right? And how we are raised in many, many different ways, not even just physical ways, dictated to in how we must dress. I have huge trauma because my mother made me wear clothes that I didn't like. But we, ladies, we have to take a short break, but we'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching The Womxn Show, and it is the month of love. And while everyone's focusing on romantic relationships with a significant other, we are focusing on relationships with self. And still with me in studio is Tarryn, who is the founder of the NPC Sweet Fragrance, and also Edlyne Edwards, who is a fitness coach and facilitator with the organization. So, ladies, before the break, we were saying a lot about empowerment, women empowerment, and Tarryn, you know, one of the core things that you were speaking about that you do in your workshops is getting women to connect with themselves. And before the break, we were talking about how important that is. I wanted to ask, like, what are some of the ways and methods that you get women to, that you teach women, some who have never thought about this before, to, I think, to do self-reflection, to look inside and get back in touch with themselves. It's not something we taught at school.
Yeah, right. So the way the booklet is written, myself and Edlyne have written all three. And within the workbook, there's a lot of space to do writing. And I think Edlyne will tell you in a moment about the writing part of it, because she has her own personal experience about writing and why she writes and all of those things. And there's a lot of space for them to do self-reflection, because the questions in the workbook is based on self-reflection. And there's a lot of questions like, for example, who are you? And they need to reflect and really think. It makes them think like, actually, who am I?
And do women struggle with that question?
Yeah, they do. They're very quiet in the beginning. And as time goes by, like I said, while the session goes on, they actually really do open up. And I think it's because they know that if I don't do this now, because what I tell them when the session starts is participation is very important. I'm not here to give you a lecture. The more you put in for yourself, the more you're going to get out. And from the start, I always say that. And that makes them also think like, okay, if I actually want to work on myself, then today I'm going to participate. And it's very question-based. Like as I'm speaking or Edlyne's facilitating, we ask questions, and then that's what gets them vulnerable. And then they actually start opening up, and then I see them writing.
Yeah.
And then I see them filling in. And then we do that very impacting mirror activity which I call the identity check. And it really goes deep. And it really makes them think, like, what happened to me? Did I have a trauma? We don't bring up the pain again because we necessarily want to. We do it because there's an aim to it. And the aim for them is to realize, how far have I come since then? Or how far haven't I come? And what do I actually need to work on so that I can become a better version of who I am? So yeah, so that's some of the tools. And then we also make them do, after every session, there's an activity to do. And we also make them write a letter to the younger self. Of really, that's a real also reflection period. So they can really see, like, if I look back at this letter in 2 years' time, who was that girl then, and who is the woman now? Because the reason why we make it right into the younger self is because when I was a girl, since being a young girl, what have I all gone through, and how did I get to this woman, to be this woman? Yeah, so yeah.
I saw this wonderful meme on Facebook yesterday, actually, and I still sent it to my cousin, and it was an illustration of someone speaking to their younger self, and the narrative, though, was different to what we usually see. It was like, thank you for having endured all the things that you have endured, and still, enabled me to be here. And then the next slide was like, look how much I'm grown. Are you proud of me now? And so it was like this beautiful just narrative of engaging with the younger self in a way that I hadn't thought of before, which brings me to the writing event to ask you about. I am a writer, a journalist, so journaling is a huge part of my life. That is how I do self-reflection, but I have traditionally just automatically done self-reflection my whole life. And I always say to people, if you write, then you're a writer, and there's no rules around that. You're just putting the stuff down. How does writing feature into the self-reflection component?
I think it's so important. I believe in journaling because even for myself, I've also gone through a lot of traumatic things. And when I got to a place where I felt like, now I really need to work on my own mental wellness, I want to work on myself, and then I started journaling. And so for me, it's a way of letting go of your emotions, letting go of your thoughts. I tell people it's like a release, basically. It's like a release of your thoughts, a release of your emotions. Because many times as you write it out, then there's space for a new perspective, right? Then there's space for peace. Then there's space for joy. Because many times if your mind or your emotions, your heart is so full of everything that happened in your life, or maybe just that day, it was a traumatic day maybe. So now your mind and your heart is so full, then you're all anxious and overwhelmed. But the moment you write about it, and I tell people, be completely honest. Why did this person do that? Why did this? Be real, be honest, write it all out. And because that is how you release it, so that you make space, as I said, for a new perspective. So you make space for healing. So you make space for peace at the end of the day. So we teach people this in our sessions because it's a tool for them that they can take with them even after the workshop. Because we want to give them tools that they can use afterwards practically, so that when they go through their daily lives and things happen, and they can't now come again to a workshop, what do they do? How do they process what they're going through? That is such a empowering tool, I feel.
And can I ask, do you get feedback from women around, like, how the writing process was for them? Because I know a lot of people are, even when they hear that, they'll say that, oh no, I'm not a writer, or oh no, that's not for me. Or sometimes they're afraid to put things down. So women who have been through this process, what has been some of the feedback? I mean, either of you can sort of.
So actually, recently, a Saturday workshop in retreat, there was this lady that she was such a beautiful girl. We actually have a video of her afterwards saying something, and she was like, Tarryn, she put her hand up during the session, and she said, I've never had time to do this. My life is so up and down, and you guys actually gave me today the time to reflect on where I'm at. And that stood out for me because the thing is this, like I said, women have so much responsibility, they don't have time to reflect and sit down and sit still. And we have quite a lot of positive feedback, which is on video of how people actually, a woman actually found the workshop to really be impacting. And one woman even said, how I do my day to day is starting to change because this workbook, what's in it, has really been helping me to look at, besides my responsibility of a mom and being at work every day, like what is my hopes and dreams? Like what do I actually want to do with my life? Because at the end of the day, I'm my own person with my own personality, and my own hopes and dreams besides my responsibilities in life. And what does she actually want? What does she actually want to form part of who she is? And so we do get lots of positive feedback like that. And women, because they never get time to self-reflect, and it's, sessions give them that time. And that's one thing I'm really grateful for, because honestly, when I started this nonprofit, I didn't know what I'm actually doing. And you learn as you go along. And to hear things like that, the positivity it has on women, it's not for us. I always tell them, we don't come here to empower us necessarily, but you guys empower us at the end of the day as well, just being here. And with that, it's for us to see that, women are actually getting something from this, and it happened over time, and it's beneficial both ways. We get empowered by each other. We learn from each other in the session, and it's really beautiful. Yeah.
I love that. I want to touch on something. I was saying that it's February, we're looking at self-love, which sounds sometimes like the term self-care, also very wishy-washy, very surface level. You made this huge emphasis about women not having the time, right? And I know in the workshops, I'm sure you speak about the importance of making the time. But if I were, what you had me thinking about was that when you're in a relationship and it's Valentine's Day or whatever, we make time for a significant other. We know that relationships suffer when you don't set aside special time. Couples have kids, there's no more date nights, the relationship suffers. One of the first things we often hear is you need to set aside time for you guys to spend time alone together. When we're talking about really not just self-caring and taking the bath and all of those things, when we're talking about really embracing and loving yourself and seeing it as being in relationship with yourself, I think I'm asking, like, going forward here, is that a way for them to think about it in terms of how to set aside time? Because we all know we must set aside time. We all know we must self-care. We're hearing it all the time. Self-love, Facebook, everything's full of memes about self-love. But what does that really look like?
I think that intentionality at the end of the day, like in anything in life, if you want to achieve a certain goal, you have to be intentional about it. So if you want to feel better about yourself, if you want to go on this self-love journey, just starting to love yourself, embrace yourself, you will have to be intentional about it. It's not just going to happen. As you said, even within a relationship, you have to be intentional about making time. So even with yourself, you have to be intentional about saying, like, I'm going to set aside, example, 10 minutes 3 times a week. Make it realistic. Make it a realistic goal for yourself. Where am I going to start? Like, look at yourself and see where you are and set a realistic goal for yourself. And you know what? Life is so uncertain. Like, you can set goals and then it didn't happen. But I always tell people, like, when, example, you planned you want to have a healthy meal, but it couldn't happen, just make sure the next meal is a healthy meal. Don't throw everything away and be like, you know what, I tried and it didn't work. And that's what many times happens, when you go on this new journey, example, you go on this self-love journey and you said, I'm going to start with 10 minutes for 3 days, example. And then this week was just so hectic and you couldn't get to it. Don't throw away the idea. Just try again, start again, just pick it up again, but I think it's important intentionality. You have to be intentional about setting time aside for it, and you have to decide, what am I going to do? Like, think ahead, plan ahead. There's a saying that goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. you know. So plan ahead. What does it look like to me now? And I think also it's important to remember that self-love is going to look different in different seasons in your life. So if I'm single, it's going to look different than when I'm married, because your time is going to be different. You know, your lifestyle is going, when you have kids, it changes again. So you can't have this expectation that, oh, but example, if you're married now you want your self-love to look like when you were single. You know, that is such an unrealistic goal that you have there. So you have to also realize that within the season in life you're in now, so what does self-love look like now to me? You know, what does it look like now? And set realistic goals, and what do I want to do? And the thing is also, we are individuals. So what is self-love to me will be different compared to what does it look like to you, you know? So maybe I enjoy going for walks on the beach. I love the beach. So to me, like, I can do that maybe for 10 minutes and then I feel revived. I have so much energy. But maybe for you, it's just going to be 10 minutes spending with your children, playing outside.
It's too stressful to drive to the beach.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So you also need to ask yourself, what does this look like in my life to me? Because my self-love is not necessarily going to look like your self-love, and that's okay.
That's great, because I wanted to ask about that, about how it looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to sort of be competitive about
Exactly.
it. It's easy to be, you know, to have fun. Or to, I often, you know, and I struggle with this, that there's a certain way the process must look.
Yeah.
There's a certain, this is why I struggle with exercise, because I'm very long. If I can use that word.
Yes.
And so I feel, even if I'm exercising alone, I feel self-conscious. Because I'm not doing it the way it looks like.
Yeah.
I just want to say something on that self-love. Like the season I'm in now, being newly married and being a mom to a young boy, for me, it's going to the gym at the moment. That's my time. That's my self-love I can give to me, because that's the time I'm alone. I can read something. It's the only time I maybe ever get to read the day because my son's so young.
Yeah.
And my gym is me time. That's my self-love. And you know, sometimes people think self-love is it must be pampering or something that you do practically for yourself, going for your nails, going for this. But it doesn't always look like that. Sometimes self-love is sitting on my bed at the end of the day, reflecting, how was my day? You know, something as simple as that. But we don't make that time to even just reflect on the day because life is so busy. And so it really looks different for everyone, because sometimes I can't get to go even to do my nails, for example.
So I said, going to do your nails,
it's not.
Sit down to reflect
Because
instead,
people
right?
feel that self-love is always pampering. It's not about pampering. It's really about, like, maybe I just need to take a breather on my bed at night, sit there and think like, Tarryn, how was your day today? And that also helps you to keep checking, who am I? How am I doing? You know, simple as that. Yeah.
I remember my daughter was really young. I would lock myself in the toilet.
That was your me time.
You know? Yeah, that was just like,
I hear it all the time from
doesn't
moms.
stop them from knocking on the loo. I mean, you know, no one can come in there.
Even if it's 10 minutes.
Okay. So you were saying earlier, you know, we don't have a lot of time left. One of the things I like to do is sort of last words at the end of it. And you did say you like to make the workshops very practical, so that we spoke earlier about access. Not everyone can access these. I mean, we'd love to have these types of workshops regularly in every area, you know, every month at least, but it isn't there, and we can only get to so many places so many times a year. So when we're speaking about practicalities, what are things that women can do? Like, I always think about tiny shifts. What are tiny things that they can do? I'm going to say, you know, my thing that I've started is just like, after I drop my daughter at school, I go for a short walk. It's not even a fast walk. It's just a slow walk. Like, and if I do, and last week, you know, on the third lap, I was like, I'm too tired. I'm very embarrassed. I'm going to look stupid if I turn around and go back to my car, because I already started this lap. But then I thought, you know what? This was enough for me, and I turned around and went to the car, and nothing happened. So what are small shifts that people can make at home on their own to sort of start to propel themselves forward?
Yeah, I think the journaling thing, you know, being reflective on yourself, as Tarryn said, even taking some time in the evening just thinking about how was your day, how are you doing, and small things like drinking water. If you know you're not constant with small things like drinking water, start implementing things like that, and start, as we said, start thinking about what does self-love look like to me in my life right now, and setting those realistic goals for yourself. And even if it's a small thing, like you made that decision after you dropped your daughter to start walking. So to someone else, what does that one small action in your life right now that you know will better your life? What does that look like now? And just implement that thing. And I feel like consistency is like a muscle. When you start becoming consistent in one thing, it's like it gives you like that confidence. Oh my word, if I could do it in this thing, then surely I can do it in another thing.
Yeah.
So example, like if you start with water, if you just focus on being consistent, drinking water, then you see, oh my word, I've done this now for 3 weeks consistently, so good. Now what else can I add? So just focus on one healthy habit that you know that is realistic for you within your life now that you can implement. Focus on that just for 3 weeks or so. And then you add another thing. So take it one step at a time.
I love that. And Tarryn, we have 2 minutes.
I just want to say in closing, our heart is ready to see women propel in life and walk a journey with them. And Sweet Fragrance is now in high school, which is always been
We
our...
didn't even get to that.
Yeah, you see? And the matriculants and the grade 11s is really also, I have a big heart for that age group. And we just want to see women really grow from strength to strength in their life. And and hope that we can do this until we're no longer here.
I love that. And I think that's important work to sort of start them young. A lot of the stuff I'm learning now, I think, how would my life have been if I had learned it when I was much younger, before I finished school? Just quickly, if people want to learn more about your workshops and organizations they can go to?
Our website is www.sweetfragrance.org, and then our social media handle is @sweetfragrancenpc.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming onto the show and sharing.
Pleasure. Thank you.
We are going to take a short break, but we'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching The Womxn Show, and we have been speaking about self-love, about self-development, and self-empowerment. Now, before the break, we were chatting to Tarryn and Edlyne about the empowerment work that they do with women in communities and ways that we can propel ourselves into our own empowerment. To help us along, we've compiled a short compilation of inspiring quotes by inspiring women to get us going. Let's have a look. That was a short compilation of inspiring quotes by inspiring women to help propel us into our own empowerment. And that brings us to the end of our hour together. If there's anything that we can take from the conversation, it's that self-care is important for self-empowerment. Now, even if it's just 10 minutes, 3 times a week, take the time to reflect, to empower and celebrate yourself. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lenina Rassool. Goodbye.